Hello and welcome to another Flutter programming. And for today, we're going to look at or continue our MyPasa application. So the MyPasa application basically at the moment, at the current stage, allow user to see the current items available in the database for buyer page or buyer screen, allow for seller to see their current products and manage their current product, such as delete and update. The buyer section or the buyer screen allow for user to list item through pagination and view details if they already registered. So when user view details for registered user, they would allow to contact the seller, SMS, WhatsApp, and view maps on the or through the browser Googlemap application. So the implementation for the detailed screen basically described through buyer product screen details. So here we have all the required widgets that implement this screen. So we can see that the screen basically contain passing or receiving passing parameter, which is a product, user, and seller, and allow for the constructor to set the class as required or the object as required. So the buyer product details basically call from the buyer screen, and this time I've changed the class name to buyer screen instead of a main screen. So you need to check or you need to make sure that your main screen also changed to buyer screen, and all related codes that call or implemented by the main screen also change to buyer screen. This is just for naming the class, nothing more than that. So when user click on any of the items here, or any of the card here, items from the card list, that basically implement through the inkwell and show details. So the show details method, which is available at the bottom, which allow for user to check for the user ID and then create a product object. However, the challenge here is that since we don't have the product owner information, so we require to look for that information first, and the load single seller method here basically implement that, which actually just call up the load seller method, load seller PHP backend, and then simply just get the information. However, there might be problems that if the seller information is not there, but here just to simply load the seller information and get all the user information and dump that information into seller object through from JSON. So that basically just quickly to get the data and build the seller object. So from the load single seller method here, allow us to get the seller information. However, there's a problem with that is because this is basically what we're doing here. We call another HTTP request, and for every item here, we'll require for an API call from the backend service. But due to the issues with the object that we created, or which is the seller object that we already created up here, which is through the var seller. I'm still having issues with this, but so far it works through some not clever, but just trick. There are just some programming tricks there that because we want to get the seller object before we move or navigate to the buyer products details class here. So I somehow introduce a delay there. I cannot use a wait. I'm not quite sure why for the load single seller here. So it means that I want to wait for the load single seller to complete and then continue its execution. But somehow I use timer. So this is also not a wise choice, but seems that a timer works and pause the operation or pause the single seller for 1 second, and then wait for that object to available, the seller object to be available. And again, this is not the best solution that I found so far. So I'm still looking for the best solution to be able to work on that, or making sure that the seller object is available, and then proceed with the navigator to go and pass all the required parameter to the buyer product details. Here we can see that we need this object and then pass to the buyer product details, and then we display all the data from there. All right, so not the best option again, so might need to research more research on that, but it does seems to work. If I try to implement a wait, like for example, if I move to seller screen and go back to buyer screen, for the first time if the buyer object is not available, I can create what we call as just a Fox object. Definitely that might solve the problem. I'm going to work on that later. But at the moment, if I click on this, it shows this loading screen, which somehow trick the programming to be able to load the seller information here. Okay, so the seller information such as name or whatever, all the seller's object, which is actually user object, and display the information over here. I don't want to load the data here. I just want to load the data here first, make sure the data exists, and then move to the screen. But yeah, you can see the trick that I put here, this timer here. So this timer basically delay the operation for 1 second, but it might break the execution if this load single seller take more than that. So yeah, that can be certain issue with load single seller. That maybe later I'm going to find another solution for that. But temporary solution, this does work through some programming trick. All right, so the progress dialog here, just to delay, just to introduce some other delay. So here you can see you have loading progress dialog that shows that loading. However, this is not the best solution, I have to say. All right, so other than that, the buyer product details, this screen only display the data through whatever data that's already been passed here. And then all the widgets and whatnot basically just display or show data. Okay, so for here I use a table, so you can just refer tables and how to use tables for this UI. So by using tables and then set the table properties, and definitely here I use not a clever options, fixed column width with 70 pixel to 200 pixel. So we have 70 pixel here and 200 pixels here. We might need to look into responsive value later on. But here just to show how to use table. So table widget and table row. So each table row contain columns. So that's why we have these. Descriptions describe in the first column, and the second column describe the data that we have through the widget product. Okay, so we have all the tables there. Each of the table row basically describe each of these elements in the table. And then at the bottom down here, we have expanded. Okay, so we have expanded down here. And this expanded basically implemented through expanded align, so that we have this row of card, this row of size box icon button implemented down here. And this basically implement phone call, SMS, WhatsApp on route, and on map. Okay, so this implementation require PubSpec YAML library URL launcher. So you can refer to the library details to get a URL launcher and implement them through each of the details here. So such as a make phone call. So the URL launcher just a short codes that allow us to call or intend to the caller. SMS, just set the scheme, and then we should be able, by using the seller object, the pass seller widget object, we should be able to load SMS application. On route, this is for HTTPS, allow us to load the Google Map through Map and WhatsApp, but this is already deprecated, but still workable, still functional. So this basically allow us to load WhatsApp and able to check if WhatsApp application is available in our phone or not. So that's about this, but there's a problem also if you the widget tree we haven't yet optimized for screen portrait screen, sorry, landscape screen. So you can notice there that it basically unable to work with that. So we can clearly see that. But this can easily solve through single child scroll view. So implementation of single child scroll view can be done here. And we might need to implement inside here because if we try to use a single child scroll view with expanded, we might have problems with that. But yeah, I'm going to look into that also later, that issue. So for caller, you can just call. All right, so you can see caller application automatically call. For SMS, you can also see the same result. Okay, you might need to put some dialog box to ask user if user really wants to go there. WhatsApp, because we don't have WhatsApp application here, you can see WhatsApp not installed. So this is another great message notification. So you can use snack bar. So this is snack bar implementation. So if something goes wrong, you can just show the snack bar, but you need to make sure that you have the context for the UI, the current context for the UI ready to be able to use snack bar. And the last one that I'm going to use, or I'm going to show to this in this video, basically this part here, Google Map, right? So this here basically just intend to maps also, but through a browser. But for this, what we're going to need is basically we're going to load our own map through Google Map library. And Google Map library, basically we can implement or we can manipulate our map locally here inside the application itself. So the implementation basically through the on-show map. And what I wanted to do is to show dialog windows. And this is the dialog windows that we have that pop up, and the map is going to be displayed inside here. So that's basically the idea for this now. And let's see how we implement Google Map in our application. All right, so we show the Google Map look for Google Map PubDev. And the current version for Google Map for Flutter is version 2.2.3. And it basically only works for Android and iOS. All right, so just make sure of that first. And just follow the example or the tutorial, the README through Google Map. However, your Flutter application, Flutter configuration might need some changes to the application. For these maps to work, you need API key, and you can apply a API key for Google Map SDK through the developer console, and make sure that you create the API key and get the API key from there. And then install the library as usual, and make sure that once you install the library, stop the application and try to reinstall the application. However, before you're doing that, you need to make sure a few requirements that you need to satisfy. Because whenever you install Google Map library, there are requirements that you need to follow. And that basically available through the documentation here. So for example, you need to update your app build Gradle with the minimum SDK version to and set to 20. So that basically available under app build.gradle. And make sure that your build.gradle set to 20, the minimum SDK for this application to work for Android, only for Android version 20 and above. So make sure of that first. However, along the way, there are some other requirements needed, but that you have to look into, because like for myself, I need to go to, or I need to update this. And also I need to add this implementation for multi-DAX. Okay, so I need to add the multi-DAX documentation. Add also multi-DAX enable to true to enable multi-DAX support, because there's some issue with the amount of memory. You need higher memory requirement somehow, and then multi-DAC will be required for this implementation. So you need to update these two. And you need also to make sure that your Gradle properties, all this set to true. Build Gradle, I think not so much, nothing in the build Gradle. So I need to make sure to update those two files and then try to reinstall again. So that is one thing that you have to do. The other thing that you need now is this Google Developer Console Google Map key. So you have to go to the console and make sure you get the console key. So depending on the version that you have, so this is the current version of my Google Console. I might need to look for that API and under API and services. So I'm going to use my my current API that I already have. So you can just, if you haven't yet registered with Google Console, you might need to enable your developer mode. And if you haven't yet, if this is the first time, definitely you need to enable your API and services. And then, for example, Maps SDK for Android, so you need to enable that. Map SDK for iOS, you need to enable that also. Something else, anything else? No. So you need to enable for both. Map SDK for Android, so turn on the service for your application process. Make sure that your API is enabled. All right, so once you have that, and also together with Map SDK for iOS, so once you have the library enabled for your service, you need to get credential and create the credential of your own. So like for myself, I already have API keys, and then you need to make sure that you create your key here, create your credentials and create your key. So since I already have my own key, so this key here, basically I call the key as Alza key or Isa key. Okay, so this is my key. So I'm going to use this key. So you can use your key. Make sure that you have that key. Once you have that, so you can add, that into your manifest, access your Android, and then under source and the main and here through your manifest. So make sure that you have your manifest in your application set. Okay, so you can take this meta and then put it into your Android manifest under application. So let's say the application, you can put it somewhere just for your application. This is for activity. This is activity. This is under application. I think this is under application. Okay, so make sure that you put this under application. So the application should be somewhere. Hold on, this one activity. One activity. This is down here. Okay, so add one more. This is metadata that will be used by the application, and then put down your key. So I'm going to put down my key here. Copy the key again, and then put your key here. All right, so this is my key, and then I can use this in through the application. Okay, so once you have that ready, you can just use the example, and I hope I can work with the example, and let's see all the requirement needed. All right, so the first thing that I need now is these two and these three for the information. Okay, so the map information. So for the map information here, the way that I put my map is basically through this by a screen, not there, by a screen there. Right, the show map here. So the map should display. So let me just start with this Google Map controller and whatnot. So you might need to import library for the Google Map. So the installation, I am not yet fully installed the library. Make sure that you have this. I haven't yet put that into application, and make sure that it doesn't turn red. Right, so we have completer, missing completer. So completer will require asynchronous. This one is constant. Can you remove that because we put things into show map? But here we use static information. So we don't want to use static information. So we want to use information from our latitude and longitude information. So we have a controller. So controller, we can define it inside or you can define it outside. So at the moment, I'm going to, maybe I can just move this somewhere outside as a completer. So put it into the class level. So I'm going to put it here so that I don't have to recall every time. And the object only created once. And then what else do I need? Okay, this one is not Googleplex. So we can just define camera position, or there's two camera position here. So I'm going to just use only one. So this one contain more information with tilt information. So let's see, I'm just going to choose one. Okay, so let's say cam position. And then the latitude and longitude information, we can get this from the product information. So either we can define up here, or we can just define inside. We can just define up there a lat length, right? So double lat equal, sorry, double lat equal, we can just use double dot parse. We need to convert the value first. Double dot parse, and then we can just use widget dot dot product latitude. Okay, so this one need to convert to string, and then the same for longitude, and then this one for longitude, and then this one is a product longitude. Right, so we get two information already, so we can just put it lat and length. However, we need to make sure that the data required basically provided. Right, so we cannot use that. Okay, so we have it up there, all the information now to be able to use the map. All right, so what else do we need now? Based on the information given, go back to README, because this is the simplest method. Try to implement the simplest method first. Okay, now we can use this Google Map here, the widget here. Okay, so the Google Map widget. Right, so the Google Map widget, I can just implement straight inside for this container. Child, and then put everything inside here. So not Google Tag, but cam position for there. So we have screen height and screen width. And this is the Google Map widget that we have. And let's see if we can actually use the Google Map when we click on this button. So we have Google Map, we provide the position, and let's see if we manage to load our Google Map. So no. So I have problem with the API key actually. So let me just check on my API key Android value, check the metadata in the Android manifest. Okay, I think I have problem with this. So let me check on the location where I should put my metadata. Oh yeah, it should be inside the application. Check the metadata is in the application element of Android manifest. So the Android manifest here, the metadata. Maybe I can just restart this application first. And let me just quickly check on my Google Maps application through my GitHub. Let's see where actually I put that. Sometimes I forgot also. It's supposed to be there. Check my repo. Check my meta. Or it's better just check my Alzaki straight from there. Yeah, so to manifest, the metadata should be also this one. I put it up here. And here metadata use permission inside the application. GMS version. So this basically depend on the GMS version, metadata, COM Android API, API key. Right, this one is the older version, I believe. So it should be okay inside the application. This is inside the application. Let me check on this first. Okay, so actually just need to do a reinstallation, stop the application and try to reinstall again. So that's the problem, the only problem that I can see here, because now you can see it is working. Oops, sorry, the page is already completed. Already completed and need to be recreated. But it does work, right? So okay, so you can see it does work. So the map is now working and then able to show position. Let me try to check on the completer and why the completer is not working. So because I put my completer here, so every time I need to reload, the completer is not available. So might as well I just put my completer here and use the completer or controller is here. Some control is okay. Yeah, the name shouldn't be that. And controller. This one is the end controller and controller. Let's see that if we can get that to work this time and able to load that multiple time. All right, so go back here and then load another data and try to load this one. Okay, so you have your map and then try to reload again. You should be okay now. All right, so now you can see the map is working and the map can be accessed. And if you want to change the type of the map, you can just straight away use the map type. Let's say if you want to see normal type maps, the one that I'm not quite sure, the one that I used before, what is that? So this is the normal map type. Or if you want to change the zoom level, so let me just put better zoom level, let's say at 17. So let's try to open that again. All right, so this is 17. Apparently you don't see much at 17 level, so quite small zoom level. Okay, so maybe you can stop at like 16. It's up to you. Okay, so once you have that, you need a marker. So I'm going to add a marker here. So let's try if we are able to add a marker. So do we have marker example through this? README. I just want to see marker. If I can just, I know the marker can be added easily. So I'm going to look at which part that I can use for a marker. So I hope this one we can get some marker. We do have marker, but we need to define our marker first. So the marker for this map, we can add marker and set marker based on the value, but we need to set our marker earlier because we just want to show the location. So this one is marker ID. So let's try to create marker, maps marker. Not quite sure if this can work. If I can have the marker ID for every time I created the UI. So let me just put it here and see if we can have our mark. Okay, so this is, no, so this is marker array actually, markers array. And let's see if I can have that marker position. Here we have marker, set marker of marker value. All right, where do we get our marker? So load map position can generate IDs. Marker to string, set the marker location with the info window. And we have our save a marker, but that was quite a lot. Maybe we can just try to use this one. ID, just add that over here. And generate ID, do we have generate ID methods? So generate my ID method is just a random value generated. So let's just put it somewhere up here by using random number. Okay, so we have it there. We have marker with marker ID. I'm not quite sure if we need this. There's no need for that. Okay, so we have marker ID. And then we need marker and define the position with the color and info window and set this to marker. Let's see if we can do that. So this one widget dot. Maybe we don't need a info window for now. We just remove that. And also that one more. But this one product. And we can just use let length that we already have. We should put it up here. We already have let length, so why not just use let length in here? This one is let, and the other one is length, LNG, right? All right. So we have it over there. Oh, definitely we need to add that to our marker. So we need to get back our marker. Because we have the marker, we need the array for the marker ID. We need the array. So if we can just put it, what is it, a little bit too long for a marker. But yeah, just try to make it to work. And let's see if we are able to get marker into our application. All right, so here. Okay, so once we have that, we can try to add marker to our widget. So where's our widget for the UI? Here. So my location enable is true, marker set marker, marker dot values. But this one, I believe for a much longer, we can add that. Let's see how it works for now. Is marker available here? Yeah, marker is over there. Set markers of values. All right, so we're going to close that. Reload that one more time. And let's see if we're able to mark our marker. There you go. All right, so we have our marker ready now. So let's try another UR, another items. Click on that and open up maps, display map, and then we have marker for that also. All right, moving on to different data. Let's try this and pop up this. All right, here we go. So now we have our map already and the location of the product. Should be able to have that information now. All right, so yeah, that should allow us to display data, display our map through the use of Google Map. And the example here, basically not the efficient way of doing that, but yeah, it should allow us to display Google Map in our application. All right, so it's quite easy, relatively easy to load Google Map here into our application. And we're able to load our map. Okay, so I think that's all for this tutorial. So if you have any requests for any other Google or Flutter tutorial, so you can put it into the description, into the comment down below. And see you.